They all know I am the protagonist, yet none are aware that I can hear the whispers of their hearts. Whenever I reach a pivotal moment in life, someone invariably appears by my side, waiting for me to falter, so they can claim a debt of gratitude for their timely rescue. But why should I adhere to your scripted narrative? At the age of 12, a vendor selling roasted sweet potatoes suddenly appeared at the entrance of my community, and he generously offered me one. As I hesitated, unsure whether to accept, a voice suddenly echoed in my ears. So, this is the heroine. Tonight, her parents will perish in a gas explosion. I must adopt her before that scrap collector does. This time, I too wished to savor the thrill of being a billionaire's father-in-law. Momentarily, I was unsure whether I was hallucinating. I declined a sweet potato and bolted away. However, the unease lingered throughout the day at school. After classes, I grabbed my backpack and dashed outside, only to be blocked by two delinquent girls. With arms crossed and malicious intentions, they cornered me against a wall, and once again, I heard their inner thoughts. Indeed, she is the heroine, so adorable, with such a happy family and excellent academic performance. It is a pity, however, that the heroine's childhood must be tragic, her growth fraught with hardship, and her life steeped in darkness, all to provide the male lead with the opportunity to become her savior and showcase his charm. The taller girl raised a foot to rest against the wall, looking down at me with disdain. "Little sister, your backpack looks quite nice. I see your family is well off. Care to spare some pocket money for your older sister to buy some notebooks?" She flexed her wrist, adopting a menacing demeanor that suggested I would be met with violence should I refuse. The other girl mimicked her, propping a leg against the opposite wall, leaving me curled in the corner with no room to move. Then, another voice resonated in my ears. "She looks so anxious. I hope I'm not scaring her to tears. But we can't be blamed. We're saving you. If we don't delay you, how will you escape being blown up at home with your parents?" Upon hearing such absurdity, a surge of strength filled my body, and I forcefully pushed both girls back. They were caught off guard, standing on one leg, and stumbled several steps backward. I took off running, but they quickly pursued me, and soon the three of us were embroiled in a scuffle near the school gate. Is this the protagonist who can't even unscrew a bottle of water? With such combat prowess, how strong must the male lead be to save face? One girl exclaimed, "Don't cry. We're saving your life. You'll die if you go home. Don't run." They continued to bicker internally, yet their faces bore expressions of defiance, as though they were determined to beat me senseless. So, I sat down on the ground, allowing them to pull at me without resistance, merely tilting my head back and wailing. I was just a 12-year-old child. I had no fear of embarrassment. Soon, the school security and nearby patrolling police were drawn to my cries. The girls exchanged glances, internally lamenting, "Wow, I thought the heroine was well-behaved, and demure. Turns out she was a little troublemaker too." As the police arrived, I cried, breathless, clinging to the officer's leg, pleading, "Please call my parents to come get me. I beg you." My mother arrived alone to collect me, saying, "Just as your father and I reached the bottom of the building, the gas pipeline outside exploded, and our home is now in ruins." She held me tightly, weeping uncontrollably, her entire body trembling. After a moment, she looked at me through her tears, managing a smile. "But it's all right. The fact that our family is safe is the greatest fortune. It was your call that saved your father and me. You truly are our little angel." It turned out the gas explosion had indeed occurred. Our home was reduced to nothing but a shell, utterly destroyed. Once the investigation concluded, it was revealed that both the gas pipeline and the electrical wiring in the community had deteriorated. One was leaking gas, the other electricity, and they happened to be right outside our home, leading to the explosion. Upon contact, we received compensation, as our parents survived, but relatives did not come to offer genuine support. Instead, they arrived one by one to lament their financial woes and request loans. One family needed money for a wedding, another for medical expenses. They audaciously claimed our family was fortunate to receive such compensation. My parents were at their wits' end, trying to explain that we needed to purchase a new house first, and once settled, if we had any surplus, we would consider helping them. Yet, they simply replied, "Then you should rent. Buying a house now is like being fleeced. Everyone rents nowadays. Who would be foolish enough to buy?" Such wise words. Why not sell their own homes and rent instead, thus freeing up funds? Why come to our family for loans? Huh. Is it merely the fate of the heroine to be surrounded by such scoundrel relatives? Why? To ensure the heroine endures torment and witnesses the darkness of humanity, so that the male lead need only offer her a gentle smile and a lollipop to become her savior. The singular light in her life. Because my parents insisted on purchasing a house and refused to lend out the compensation money, they offended all our relatives, who accused us of becoming wealthy and turning our backs on them. Just as that vendor of sweet potatoes had said, once our compensation funds are exhausted, no one will care about our family any longer. 2. Next door to our new home resides a couple who earn their living by collecting scrap. Due to health reasons, they were unable to have children of their own. In pursuit of meeting the criteria for adoption, they specifically purchased this house and subsequently went to an orphanage to adopt a little girl. The girl's name is Yan Xiaoxue. She is an orphan, having lost her parents and been stripped of her inheritance by her relatives, ultimately ending up in the orphanage. Now 12 years old, she bears memories of her family and has endured the trauma of familial upheaval. Unwilling to relinquish her name, she is often overlooked by prospective adoptive parents. However, this couple chose her with conviction. During conversations with my mother, I frequently overhear the aunt expressing, "Our Xiaoxue has faced hardships. She was once a beloved little princess with doting parents. If left in the orphanage, she would be forsaken and her life would be forfeit. Keeping her name is commendable. A child who remembers her biological parents possesses a conscience, aware of her origins. How can this be grounds for disdain?" Although I have never heard the heartfelt sentiments of their family of 3, I am certain that the uncle and aunt are genuinely good people. Despite their humble occupation of scrap collection, they have dedicated the best of their lives to their adopted daughter. From that moment on, Xiaoxue and I became close friends, walking to and from school together each day. She is remarkably quiet, having spoken scarcely a word for several months, yet at home, she demonstrates great understanding. At just 12, she is acutely aware of her distinctiveness compared to other children. 3. At 15, following the conclusion of the high school entrance examination, I once again encountered the thoughts of a stranger. As Xiaoxue and I emerged from the examination hall and walked home, we passed by a stunning woman walking her dog. She suddenly cast a sympathetic glance in my direction. This must be the protagonist. How pitiable, soon to face great tribulation. Should I seize this opportunity to assist her? However, sheltering her for a few days and providing meals could lead to a decade of retribution and oppression. Though a multi-million-dollar supermarket awaits in return after 10 years. What if I do not survive long enough to see the male lead help her vanquish the villain? That would be a most unfavorable bargain. Moreover, my family does not run a convenience store. I have no obsession with supermarkets and lack business acumen. I would prefer a few million in cash. Being a protagonist is no easy task. A lifetime of fortune is expended to benefit the male lead. The woman continued her musings, but as we walked further apart, her voice faded into the distance. Thus, I grasped Xiaoxue's hand and retraced my steps to catch up with her. "Excuse me, miss, your dog is adorable. May I play with it for a moment?" The beauty, clearly taken aback by my sudden approach, nodded after a brief moment of surprise. "You may gently stroke it. Little Bai is very well behaved, but do not tug at its fur, as it can feel pain." I crouched beside the dog, summoning my courage to gently caress its back. Meanwhile, the beauty resumed her inner dialogue. The protagonist is so compassionate. It seems her adoptive parents have raised her exceptionally well. Despite being good people, they have been falsely accused of murder and sentenced to 20 years. How unjust. The author has set the cost of helping her so high. I cannot afford such a chance. I quicken my pace in petting the dog to mask the trembling in my hands. Firstly, she must be referring to me as the protagonist. Yet, she mentioned adoptive parents. 3 years ago, when my parents met with an untimely demise, I was not adopted. It is evident that this beauty is unaware of the truth. Could it be that others are also oblivious, allowing the plot to unfold as they believe? Consequently, the couple who were meant to adopt me, the scrap collectors, might be framed and accused of murder, eventually imprisoned? What nonsense! I am no protagonist, but rather a harbinger of misfortune. Whoever shows me kindness is destined to suffer. Must I wait to plunge into an abyss? Granting the male lead a chance to emerge as a hero and rescue me? For, upon returning home that evening, I shamelessly sought a meal from next door. For our families have shared a close bond over the years. Xiaoxue and I frequently dine and sleep together, and our parents have grown accustomed to it. During dinner, I intentionally broached the topic, "Uncle, Auntie, you seem a bit downcast. Is something troubling you?" In truth, I had not perceived any distress. As the uncle and aunt possess remarkably good temperaments, they never bring external grievances into their home. I sometimes envy this quality, as my own parents occasionally engage in quarrels. The uncle paused. "Have I inadvertently affected you? My apologies."
No.
Xiaoxue and I have grown up. If you have any worries, please share. Perhaps we can offer some advice." Xiaoxue chimed in, serving them food. Yes, Mom and Dad. Is there anything I can do to help? The uncle sighed. Our scrap yard has recently encountered some trouble. Despite their humble occupation, the land on which their scrap yard sits is owned by them. However, being simple, honest individuals, they have little interest in pursuing other business ventures, having spent their lives collecting scrap. They are planning to develop the area, constructing buildings. The developer wishes to purchase my land, but the offered price is far too low, claiming there is nothing of value on it, just a few dilapidated sheds for storing scrap. While my land may appear barren, it is indeed a substantial plot. We may lack formal education, but we are not fools. They are taking advantage of us. When we refused to sign the contract, they continually sent people to harass us, creating chaos, which has deterred anyone from selling scrap. The aunt added, "We are not unreasonable people. They intend to build upscale residences, and our scrap yard cannot exist within their community. However, the price they offer is simply unacceptable. Murder is not something that can be falsely attributed so easily. There must be a body involved. Could it be that a body is hidden within the uncle and aunt's scrapyard? Perhaps it has yet to happen, and there is still time. Uncle, auntie, while this matter is beyond our expertise, you could hire a lawyer. They are merely exploiting us, the honest common folk, because we lack legal knowledge. We can have a lawyer at the scrap yard to oversee matters and negotiate with them when they return to sign the contract." Hire a lawyer? That could be quite expensive. We have never dealt with lawyers before. Uncle, auntie, if you manage to secure a fair price for your substantial plot of land, the lawyer's fee will be recuperated. They're a large corporation. How can we common folks dare to confront them? I believe we must seek legal counsel, if necessary. We might need to report them. I kicked Xiaoxue's calf under the table, and she glanced at me before hastily nodding in agreement. Yes, Mom and Dad. Let us hire a lawyer. Our teacher has taught us to act according to the law. The uncle smiled and ruffled Xiaoxue's hair. All right, we will follow your advice. Tomorrow, we shall find a lawyer. Later that evening, I took Xiaoxue back to my home to sleep. Xiaoxue, do you think you can get into the best high school in our city? Xiaoxue nodded. I believe I can. I think I did quite well too. We will continue to go to school and return home together. Sounds good. By the way, Xiaoxue, what do you plan to do during the summer break? It's rare to have a homework-free holiday, a perfect opportunity for fun. I will stay home with my parents, or help them at the scrapyard. Xiaoxue is truly an exceptionally understanding child. My parents wish she were their own. She has no qualms about getting her hands dirty or feeling embarrassed while helping at the scrapyard. Yet, the uncle and aunt dote on her and seldom allow her to assist. Xiaoxue, didn't the uncle mention that someone is causing trouble at the scrapyard? No one dares to sell scrap anymore. Those individuals are certainly acting with intent, first scaring off sellers, and then seizing the opportunity to frame and slander. It must be so. In recent years, my uncle and aunt have endured considerable hardships, and I genuinely believe that they love you dearly and treat you with utmost kindness, far better than many biological parents do. However, I can understand that you must miss your biological parents immensely. You have never returned home, have you? Which city was your original home? Perhaps you could take this opportunity for your uncle and aunt to accompany you back to your hometown, to pay respects at your parents' graves, allowing them to witness how much you have grown and hear about your excellent performance in the high school entrance examination. Before I could finish my sentence, Yan Xiaoxue's eyes welled with tears. But will my parents agree? She asked. Of course they will. They will certainly consent, as they love you dearly. They would be more than willing to meet your biological parents in person, to show them that you are still their cherished little princess. The following day, upon their return, my uncle and aunt appeared disheveled, with torn clothing and bruises adorning my uncle's face. Those developers had employed thugs to create chaos, barging in without a word, smashing and throwing everything in sight, scattering the carefully organized scrap materials that my uncle and aunt had diligently arranged. They even callously tossed still-lit cigarette butts into a towering pile of cardboard boxes, nearly igniting a fire. When my uncle attempted to drive them away, a scuffle ensued. The police arrived only to declare it a mutual altercation, offering a stern lecture to both parties before sending them on their way. Yan Xiaoxue could hardly broach the subject of visiting her biological parents at such a critical juncture, fearing it would burden her adoptive parents. Yet I grew increasingly anxious, worried that my uncle and aunt might be wrongfully implicated in a crime. Therefore, while Yan Xiaoxue was tending to her uncle's wounds in the living room, I quietly approached the aunt in the kitchen and whispered, "Aunt, you should tell uncle to hire a lawyer to negotiate with the scrapyard. You both need to lay low for a while. If they are bold enough to resort to violence and arson now, what might they do in a few days?" I fear for both of you, but more so for Xiaoxue. Upon hearing this, the aunt visibly panicked, clearly shaken. Actually, last night when Xiaoxue slept beside me, she spoke in her sleep, repeatedly saying she was doing well and urging them to rest easy. I realized she might have dreamt of her biological parents, especially since she hasn't visited their graves in 3 or 4 years. Perhaps, during the summer vacation, you and Uncle could take Xiaoxue on a trip to lift her spirits, and then visit her biological parents' graves? Once she enters high school, she will have even less time. The aunt turned away, discreetly wiping away tears before asking, "Did Xiaoxue dream of her parents?" "Yes, undoubtedly. She was crying, yet she would never dare to share this with you or Uncle, as she deeply cares for your feelings and fears causing you sorrow. When it comes to Yan Xiaoxue, my uncle and aunt have always been diligent." The very next day, they sought the assistance of a law firm and enlisted an experienced attorney to negotiate with the real estate company. They decided to take Yan Xiaoxue back to her hometown to pay respects to her parents and subsequently travel to the capital. They intended to show her the esteemed universities in the capital, allowing her to choose one she admires, thus giving her a goal and motivation for her high school studies. Yan Xiaoxue was overjoyed, eagerly grasping my hand and inquiring if I would join them. I had to decline, as I needed to stay and observe how the situation would unfold. When I finally witnessed the 3 of them leaving with their luggage, a sense of relief washed over me. I was uncertain whether I could completely shield them from this impending disaster, but at the very least, they now had an alibi. Even if a body were found at the scrapyard, it would have no connection to them. 3 days after their departure, as if rehearsed, the anticipated event transpired. Attorney Zhou was stationed at the scrap yard to prevent any forced demolition. However, after only 2 days, the stray dog that my uncle and aunt often fed unearthed a corpse from the pile of plastic bottles. It was reported that the individual had been bludgeoned to death with a tool like a shovel, the majority of the wounds concentrated on the head, rendering the visage unrecognizable and the death particularly gruesome. Coincidentally, the deceased was found with identification on him, that of the same thug who had repeatedly caused trouble at the scrap yard and had even fought with my uncle and aunt. The murder weapon was still bloodied and left in the small shed where my uncle typically stored his tools. Attorney Zhou, startled by the morning discovery, remained composed due to his experience. He promptly reported the situation to the authorities, then hurriedly fed the dogs to prevent them from lingering around the body. He covered the corpse with a large plastic sheet to avoid alarming passers-by. When someone attempted to enter the scrap yard in search of useful items, Attorney Zhou firmly denied them entry, citing the need to preserve the crime scene. Soon, a substantial contingent of police arrived, erecting a cordon around the area. Just as the barrier was established, a group approached. "Officer, what is happening here?" one of them inquired. "This is none of your concern. Please step back and do not approach the cordon," the officer replied. The lead individual, however, refused to leave, persistently questioning, "Is this scrap yard being sealed? What has occurred?" "My brother came to find old Zhang last night, and he is yet to return. I was about to go in to look for him." Attorney Zhou's alertness was piqued, and he approached the individual, offering a cigarette. "Who are you? What is your brother's name? When did he come here yesterday? Who are you to ask so many questions?" The man retorted, "I am a lawyer, and it seems there may be a case here. You might need my services," Zhou replied, handing over his business card. The man, however, disdainfully tossed it aside, muttering, "I don't need you. I have plenty of lawyers." As events unfolded at the scrap yard, and with my uncle and aunt conveniently absent, the neighbors remarked on their good fortune for having left town just days prior. If they had been present, they would have found themselves in a predicament beyond explanation. When Yan Xiaoxue called me, she was in tears, anxious that they were planning to buy tickets to return. I quickly intervened, urging, "Do not come back. You cannot return now. This matter has nothing to do with you." "Xiaoxue, don't you think your biological parents are watching over you from above, ensuring that you and your uncle and aunt avoid this trouble? Therefore, please do not return. Just continue with your plans. By the time you return, the police will certainly have resolved the case." In fact, the police solved the case more swiftly than I had anticipated. Within 3 days, just as Yan Xiaoxue and her family arrived in the capital, the case was cracked. The perpetrator was none other than the individual who had approached the police and discarded Zhou's business card. He and the deceased, Lu Hong, were close associates, having previously caused considerable trouble at the scrapyard. After receiving payment from the developers, he killed Lu Hong and attempted to frame the scrapyard. That morning, he had intended to stage a scene to ensure that everyone would know the scrapyard owner had committed murder. However, being a lazy thug, he had risen late, allowing the stray dog to uncover the body early, while Attorney Zhou, experienced as he was, had promptly alerted the authorities to secure the scene. His plans were entirely thwarted. No one ventured to gawk and disturb the scene, nor did he have the opportunity to plant evidence. His bold approach only drew Attorney Zhou's scrutiny. How could a mere thug claim to have an abundance of lawyers? It was evident he had someone backing him. Once Attorney Zhou identified a suspect, the police followed the trail, discovering that the individual had recently begun spending lavishly, even purchasing a new car, all in cash. They offered me $3 million, and if I refused, they would give that money to Lu Hong. I knew that if it were Lu Hong, he would accept that $3 million without hesitation and kill me. I had no choice. This individual, unperturbed by the act of murder, revealed a profound cowardice when confronted during interrogation, disclosing everything without hesitation. Thus, a decade later, when the male protagonist endeavors to unearth the true culprit, namely, the deceased's close associate, one must ponder, how arduous could this task truly be? Is it necessary for such a grotesquely simplistic and intellectually insulting frame-up to linger for 10 years before the protagonist intervenes? In a nation fervently advocating against violent demolitions, this developer exhibits audacity, resorting directly to murder and arson. There is no need to wait a decade for the protagonist to unleash his formidable presence to declare the developer's bankruptcy. The law would swiftly deliver him to a lengthy imprisonment. This so-called upscale residential project has also met its demise, unceremoniously absorbed by another company. Perhaps buoyed by a serendipitous fortune, the new proprietor offered my uncle a price that exceeded his initial expectations. After all, they were not extorting anyone. The other party merely underestimated them, treating them like scavengers and thus attempting to bargain unfairly. My uncle and aunt received compensation, which they promptly deposited into a fixed-term bank account for 3 years. With palpable excitement, they said to Yan Xiaoxue, 3 years from now, wherever you get admitted to university, we shall purchase a small house nearby and your parents will accompany you to college. How does that sound? What a blissful family. This is the fate that good people rightfully deserve. Subsequently, I traversed the path to my middle school multiple times. Yet I never encountered that beautiful sister walking her dog again. As high school approached, I returned to the library to return some books, only to be caught in a sudden downpour on my way back. I sprinted to the entrance of a small convenience store to escape the rain, where the store's owner welcomed me inside. Come in, little sister, this rain won't let up anytime soon. If you wait under the eaves, you'll just get splattered with muddy water. I stepped into the store and stood by the cash register. Thank you, sister. No need to thank me. You're soaked. You must be cold. I happen to be enjoying some instant noodles. Let me make you a bowl. No, it's all right. I just came from the library and didn't bring any money. I want to take your money. Let me treat you. Have some hot soup to warm you up, or else I'll feel awkward eating alone. It won't taste good without company. The sister prepared a bowl of seafood noodles for me. Oh, dear, I forgot to ask. Can you eat seafood? If not, I have a bowl of spicy beef noodles for you. I can eat seafood, thank you, sister. Due to the torrential rain, the store was devoid of customers. The sister and I leaned over the cash register, enjoying our noodles. Feeling a tad embarrassed, I sensed that she noticed my discomfort and initiated conversation to ease my tension. What grade are you in? Still going to the library during break. That's quite diligent. I'm about to start high school. Classes begin in a week. Which school? City number 1 high school. Impressive. Let me reward you with an egg. Before I could refuse, she deftly peeled a marinated egg and placed it in my noodles. Hurry up and eat. This marinated egg is delicious. As she enjoyed her noodles, her ear-length bob swayed gently. I suddenly recalled the beautiful girl I had met just after the high school entrance exam, who had remarked, my family isn't running a convenience store. I do prefer a few million in cash over a trip to the supermarket. A different scene flashed before my eyes, reminiscent of the female protagonist in a book who had just begun to emerge from the shadow of losing her parents under the care of her adoptive parents. After merely 3 years of happiness, her adoptive parents were wrongfully imprisoned for murder. To compensate the victim's family, they were forced to sell the land implicated in the crime, even parting with their own home. After settling the compensation, they were left with nothing. This 15-year-old girl found herself homeless, wandering to the entrance of a convenience store, where a kind sister invited her in and generously offered her a steaming bowl of noodles. Upon understanding her plight, the sister sheltered her for a few days until school started, accompanying her to class. However, this act of kindness led her to suffer at the hands of ruthless developers and thugs for a decade. Would it be possible that even the small convenience store might not survive? What are you crying about? Is the noodles not to your taste? No, no. I just ate too quickly, and the broth splashed into my eyes. Look at you so clumsy. The sister handed me a tissue. Wipe your face. I wiped my face and asked her, Sister, if you had to lose this convenience store and endure oppression and bullying for 10 years, only to receive a supermarket worth tens of millions after that, would you agree? Of course not. I'm not insane. 10 years. Those are the most beautiful, youthful, and vibrant years of my life. Why would I squander them suffering and being bullied? If I spent 10 years like that, I would either be mentally depressed or become psychologically twisted. How astute her words were. The dog-walking beauty understood that such opportunities were hardly worth seizing, thus refraining from pursuing them. The sister continued, in 10 years, anything is possible. Who knows? I might not even need a decade to happily earn a fortune of 100 million on my own. What's a supermarket worth tens of millions? Little sister, why are you asking such strange questions? You haven't encountered someone peculiar who wants to exchange youth for money, have you? Don't be foolish. Focus on your studies. Otherwise, I'll certainly tell your parents and have them punish you. You must believe in yourself. Don't let others deceive you. Whatever you desire, strive to attain it through your own efforts. Sometimes, those cheap, free-sounding deals that seem so appealing can turn out to be the most costly and detrimental. Who knows? They might even cost you your life, so stay away from them. Words cannot express how grateful I felt at that moment. Yes, I will listen to you, sister. I'll study diligently and strive for what I want. I do not require a hero as salvation, just as the sister does not need that supermarket a decade later. Soon after finishing the noodles, the rain ceased. August's torrential downpours are swift to arrive and equally swift to depart. As I prepared to leave, the sister gifted me a new umbrella. Take this to school, remember to study hard, and don't stray from the right path. Thank you, sister. I will remember. Walking down the rain-washed street, holding the umbrella gifted by the sister, I felt an indescribable joy. Such a wonderful person, as she has not fallen victim to unwarranted misfortune for the next 10 years. She can joyfully embrace the most youthful and vibrant decade of her life. This is the kindness she rightfully deserves in return. As high school commenced, both Yan Xiaoxue and I opted to reside in the school dormitory. On the first day of military training, I encountered a girl on the playground. The moment she caught sight of me, her eyes widened in fear. I heard her shriek, "Oh my God! Oh my God! Isn't that the female protagonist? It's her. Why is she haunting me? I've worked tirelessly for 2 years to transform from a study slacker to a top student to avoid you. Why am I now at the same school as you? Weren't you supposed to go to number 10 high school to be the top student? What are you doing at number 1 high school? Please spare me, female protagonist. I've turned over a new leaf and haven't been a malicious supporting character for years. I want to bully you. Please don't let the male protagonist sell me to Myanmar. Wah. Mommy, it's terrifying. I want to transfer. A malicious supporting character? Sold to Myanmar? Does the male protagonist engage in human trafficking? Isn't that criminal? The girl seemed genuinely terrified. Before I could even greet her, she fled in tears. I wandered around the playground several times until military training concluded, yet I never saw her again. In fact, I didn't spot her anywhere on campus. Later, I approached my homeroom teacher and inquired, "Teacher, could you help me check if there's a girl who registered for military training but subsequently left?" There is. However, it was not just one girl, but 2 who walked away together. Despite the school's efforts to retain them, it proved futile. Even their parents' pleas fell on deaf ears as the 2 girls wept and insisted on leaving. Which school did they transfer to? The teacher is unaware of that. Both students had excellent grades, and wherever they went, they would surely be welcomed. Had they stayed, they would likely have been placed in our class or the adjacent second class, which is quite unfortunate. My goodness. If the principal were to find out that I frightened away 2 such academically gifted students upon our first meeting, he would undoubtedly be infuriated to the point of having a heart attack. They went to such lengths to avoid me, and it would be inappropriate for me to embark on a futile search for them. I initially hoped to glean more about future events from them, including details about the male protagonist, but it seems that is now impossible. Just when I thought I had nearly forgotten about this incident, a year later, I was awarded the title of Outstanding Student in the city. The city leaders organized an award ceremony where they personally presented prizes and certificates to us, the recipients. While waiting to ascend the stage, I turned my head and, in the adjacent team of awardees from the second high school, I caught sight of a face filled with sheer terror. Oh no, it's C, the specter that haunts me. She was as frightened of me as ever. Or perhaps she genuinely feared that being near me would lead the male protagonist to sell her off to Myanmar. Without even affording me a chance to explain, I worried she might abandon her certificate and flee, so I quickly turned my face away, pretending not to see her. In truth, I longed to engage her in conversation, yet feared that I might scare her off, creating an awkward situation for her accompanying teacher and the city leaders. After the city leader speeches, they invited a previous exemplary student to the stage to speak. Upon introduction, I learned that he was an exceptionally talented senior from an international school, not a public high school. This year's senior class was exempt from the college entrance examinations, as several top universities in the country had already granted him direct admission. However, he had his sights set elsewhere, having applied to 11 of the world's finest institutions, all of which had offered him admission along with full scholarships and research funding. Despite being merely a high school student, his research project was said to involve peers who were professors and PhD candidates. I was left befuddled by the introduction, and before I could fully absorb the gravity of the situation, I muttered, "Wow, quite handsome." Suddenly, an ear-piercing scream echoed. Ah, the male protagonist. How could I have forgotten he was coming to give a speech today? Who will save me from the first encounter between the male and female leads? The unfortunate soul, who labeled herself as the venomous female antagonist, fainted on the spot. Upon seeing the speaker on stage, she rolled her eyes and collapsed, causing a commotion that rendered me unable to comprehend a single word of his speech. Just how terrifying could the male protagonist be? Dear sister, what unspeakable deeds has he committed to instill such fear in you? Speak a bit more before you faint. This male protagonist is 19 years old and stands at a height of 189 centimeters. It is said that he could have entered university 3 years ago, but due to his research endeavors, he delayed his enrollment until this year. Even before stepping foot in university, his research achievements and publications had already reached the caliber of top graduates from prestigious institutions. Thus, attending university for him would merely be a formality to obtain a degree. I had once believed the author was merciless in their portrayal, but upon encountering the male protagonist, I realized he only exhibits such severity towards the female lead, the antagonist, and those in our vicinity. He is well aware of what excellence and happiness entail. In my storyline, with both parents deceased and foster parents imprisoned, I endure hardship and bullying, while those who show me kindness seem to suffer misfortune for 8 lifetimes. In contrast, his narrative features immense wealth, extraordinary intelligence, and a path paved with ease, drawing admiration from countless followers, even benefiting someone as unfortunate as myself. Following the plot, I would undoubtedly become a deeply insecure and sensitive individual. Yet the male protagonist, born into privilege, is revered by juniors and teachers alike. Already a legend at the tender age of 19. Are such disparate individuals truly compatible? Will there be a common language between us? Witnessing the male protagonist's condescending gaze upon the masses, I can only imagine the lengths to which the city leaders went to implore him to deliver a brief speech. He gazes down at the underclassmen as if they were mere ants. I must ask, how could someone as insecure as I ever muster the courage to fall for someone so arrogant? Author, what kind of plot do you envision for us to engage in a romance? Should you dare depict me working part-time in nightclubs during my university years while he fortuitously returns to face treachery, leading to a night of entanglement and subsequent contractual arrangements, I would scale your window at midnight and ensure you were reduced to mincemeat for the dogs. Such indignities are unacceptable. Alas, the unfortunate venomous female antagonist ultimately did not receive her award personally from the city leaders. During the ceremony, her teacher collected it on her behalf. And it was then that I finally learned her name, Yao Jinyu. What a name befitting nobility. Her parents must truly cherish her. After all, behind every miscreant child, there surely lies a pair of doting parents who shield them from consequences. Now that she has shifted from bullying her classmates to becoming an academic achiever, her parents must be overjoyed. The male protagonist departed immediately after his speech, not lingering for even a minute. Although he was gone, his legend remained, and everyone buzzed with excitement, passionately referring to him as a divine scholar. No matter where I turned, discussions of Lu Lingfeng surrounded me. It was impossible to escape. Yet I found no pleasure in it. I admired Yao Jinyu more. Everything she achieved was through her relentless effort, even defying the author's intentions. The author crafted her to be an uneducated, morally bankrupt bully who met a dismal end, yet she chose to reform and diligently pursue her studies, altering her fate through sheer willpower. Truly, she is an inspiration. Upon returning to school, Lu Lingfeng continued to be an enduring legend. His research concluded with numerous awards for his papers, and many doctoral students graduated thanks to his guidance. After his speech, he boarded a plane to study abroad. For if he did not pursue education, he would soon inherit a fortune of billions. Is this the author's favoritism? It is indeed frightening. The next encounter with Yao Jinyu occurred during the university freshman registration. I, along with Yan Xiaoxue, found ourselves sharing a dormitory with Yao Jinyu and her close friend Zhao Ling. What a coincidence. I expected Yao Jinyu to be terrified again, to claim I haunted her. But to my astonishment, she walked straight past me as if I were invisible. Yao Jinyu, do you not recognize me?
Huh?
How do you know my name? Yao Jinyu genuinely does not remember me. She is not feigning ignorance. Moreover, I can no longer hear her thoughts. Does this signify that she has entirely escaped the narrative of the venomous female antagonist and embarked upon her own journey? The thought filled me with excitement, and my eyes grew misty. I wanted to cry. However, to avoid making her uncomfortable, I restrained myself. We met during the recognition ceremony for outstanding students in high school. No need to mention how I scared her into transferring. Oh, my apologies. I had a bit of a health scare that day, so I don't recall. No worries. Let us reintroduce ourselves. I'm Suwan, and this is my dear sister, Yan Xiaoxue. Hello, I'm Yao Jinyu, and this is my good friend Zhao Ling. The four of us settled into our dormitory joyfully, embarking on a fulfilling university life. Yao Jinyu studied diligently, while Zhao Ling had a playful spirit, but Yao Jinyu managed to keep her in check. As other classmates busied themselves with part-time jobs and romance, we four roommates were already plotting our plans for the postgraduate entrance examination. No one could ever shake our unwavering ambition to study diligently and strive for excellence until Lu Lingfeng reappeared before us. Yao Jinyu fell head over heels for him at first sight. Witnessing Yao Jinyu in the dormitory, her eyes sparkling with excitement, describing with a lovesick grin the senior she had just encountered on campus, I felt no romance. Rather, a pang of fear gripped me, one that made me want to weep. This was not the Yao Jinyu I knew. She had always reminded herself of the importance of her studies. Yet she had forgotten the very reason she had been working so ardently. To think she had initially aimed to avoid him, only to declare that encountering him was the greatest reward for her years of hard work. I implored her earnestly, explaining that fleeting romantic entanglements are but passing whims, while one's academic achievements and abilities are the true treasures that accompany us throughout life. She had lost sight of her original obsession with studying, and the vow she made as an adolescent could never have been intended to lead her to a future where she might meet some man. We had vowed as a sisterhood to pursue our PhDs together. She could not afford to fall in love halfway through. I managed to silence the other two girls in our dormitory, but Yao Jinyu remained infatuated. But he is truly exceptional, perhaps the finest man in the world, she insisted. Yao Jinyu, he is not worthy of you, I retorted. His current stature is merely a result of the author's pen, a life of unparalleled fortune that has required no alteration or effort on his part. Placed in your shoes, he might not achieve the success you have attained. You have already become the protagonist of your own life. Do not allow the author to dictate your role and become a mere supporting character. Surprisingly, Lu Lingfeng, who had never attended university in our country, had somehow become our honorary alumnus. The school even invited him back for the anniversary celebration. He went abroad to study during my sophomore year, and upon completing his doctorate, he returned home with 3 PhD degrees in mathematics, economics, and management. How can he even be considered our alumnus? I questioned. Don't you know? Before he went abroad, Lu had conducted 3 years of research right here, at our university. Yao Jinyu answered. After Lu Lingfeng's speech concluded, she boldly approached him. And I was certain that the number of female students infatuated with him in our school numbered not in the hundreds, but in the thousands. Yet it was only Yao Jinyu who had the courage to confess her feelings. Senior Lu, I have fallen for you, at first sight. However, relationships can be troublesome. There's the pursuit, the romance, then the inevitable disillusionment and mutual disdain. Heartbreak, arguments, and ultimately, a bitter separation filled with resentment. Therefore, I suggest we cut to the chase. Please say to me, Yao Jinyu, we are breaking up, to prevent me from lingering on you and affecting my studies. I was rendered speechless. And so too were Yan Xiaoxue and Zhao Linger. Yan Xiaoxue was the first to regain her composure, playfully nudging my shoulder. Well, now you have what you wished for. You needn't worry about her anymore. Truly, Yao Jinyu was remarkable, shedding the persona of a vicious supporting character. I had underestimated her. Yet her expression still bore that infatuation, and to speak such words required considerable resolve. Alas, Lu Lingfeng was unwilling to comply. He ignored her and approached me instead, asking, What is your name? My heart raced with alarm. Before I could decide how to respond, Yan Xiaoxue interjected. Her name is Yan Xiaoxue. Lu Lingfeng did not utter another word and turned away. How rude. Senior, you haven't broken up with me yet. Yao Jinyu exclaimed. I suddenly recalled how she had fainted upon seeing Lu Lingfeng in our second year, and now she had grown into a fierce warrior. As for Yan Xiaoxue, this was her first encounter with Lu Lingfeng. Why had she lied? Xiaoxue, why did you say that? I inquired. Yan Xiaoxue frowned. He gives me a very unsettling impression. What do you mean? I pressed. He instills an inexplicable sense of danger in me. Yan Xiaoxue even cautioned me, you should keep your distance from him. He seems rather sinister. I felt an overwhelming urge to hug Yan Xiaoxue. She truly was my sister, and rather than succumbing to the charms of the male lead, she had developed a protective instinct. Excellent. Yao Jinyu returned to the dormitory in a gloomy state, asking, why do you think Senior Lu refuses to break up with me? Has he started to feel reluctant? I sighed and looked skyward. Is it possible that he wanted to break up with you because you two were never actually together? Upon hearing this, Yao Jinyu angrily copied 300 English words, compelling herself to memorize them all within an hour. Yan Xiaoxue's warning about Lu Lingfeng's sinister nature seemed increasingly justified, especially after our counselor personally summoned her to discuss how Lu's family intended to arrange a year-long leave of absence for her to marry him. Yan Xiaoxue pointed to her own nose, repeatedly asking, is it me? To get married? Are you sure it's me? When she returned to the dormitory, she was so enraged she could hardly speak coherently. We spent a long time discussing, finally confirming that we had not misunderstood. Lu Lingfeng indeed intended to marry Yan Xiaoxue unilaterally. Moreover, he bypassed all necessary procedures, neglecting to consult her parents or even seek her consent, sending someone to the school to arrange her leave of absence. Is this what it means to embody the male lead's arrogance? Terrifying. I initially thought your request to break up with Senior Lu was absurd, but I never anticipated he would act even more absurdly. It seems I am out of touch with the times. It's not you who are peculiar, but rather, I am too naive. After cooling down from her fury, Yan Xiaoxue posed a philosophical question. Do you think Lu Lingfeng wants to marry me as a person or simply the name Yan Xiaoxue? Yao Jinyu and Zhao Linger were perplexed by her words, while I fell silent in contemplation. Could it be that he recognized me as the protagonist, thus omitting all customary steps and intending to lead me directly to the altar? Yan Xiaoxue had told a little lie, and now she found herself ensnared in this absurdity. Even the school, which revere him as a god, found his actions excessive, prompting them to inquire about Yan Xiaoxue's own wishes. Surely, she could not be expected to take a leave of absence to marry Lu Lingfeng. A week later, I received a message from a stranger. This is merely a small lesson for you. What is meant to come will come. Do not waste my time. I have no desire to engage in your cat-and-mouse games or torturous romances. If you continue down this path, only those you care for will suffer. What a convoluted message. Surely it was sent to the wrong person. Just as I prepared to respond and inquire about the sender's identity, I suddenly received a call from Yan Xiaoxue, who was sobbing uncontrollably, informing me that her uncle and aunt had been in a car accident. Her uncle was in ICU fighting for his life, and his prognosis was uncertain. In that moment, the earlier message made sense. It had indeed been intended for me, and I understood who had sent it. I was at a loss as to how to face my best friend, or how to confront the kind couple who had always treated me well. Round and round I went, and yet here I was, having brought calamity upon them. As the protagonist, I could not escape the fate that entailed that those who care for me would inevitably suffer. Even if Yan Xiaoxue had merely spoken a harmless lie in a moment of caution, it had now resulted in a disaster for her family. The perpetrator has turned himself in, driving under the influence, with no attempt to flee or evade responsibility, and has promised to cover hospital, care, and emotional damages. I showed the message to the police. Officer, this is not a mere traffic accident. This is premeditated murder, and I know who the perpetrator is. You cannot prove who sent this information. Indeed, it is true. Who among the male protagonists is not a rogue beyond the law? Moreover, why is it you who is threatened while it is Yan Xiaoxue's parents who suffer? Because he mistook me for someone else. He thought my name was Yan Xiaoxue. Do you have any evidence? What if he admits it himself? If he confesses that he mistook me for someone else and acknowledges that it is I he intends to force into marriage, can a case be filed? I am truly terrified that my dearest friend will resent me for the calamity I have brought upon them, yet I dare not conceal the truth from her. I fear that worse misfortunes may befall them in the future, and they remain oblivious to the reasons. Thus, I revealed that message to her and recounted my tale. Starting from the day I encountered the uncle selling sweet potatoes when I was 12. Yan Xiaoxue remained silent for a long while before suddenly breaking into a bitter smile. No wonder Yao Jinyu remarked that when she fell for Lu Lingfeng at first sight, you looked utterly terrified, as if the sky had fallen. Then she added, "There is something I have longed to tell you, but I feared you would not believe me." "What is it?" "In truth, I too can hear the voices of others' hearts, but I can only hear one person's." "Who?" "The author." It turns out that Yan Xiaoxue has her own story. She explained that according to the author's design, she had picked up the script meant for a stand-in's rise to power. The author harbors a deep-seated hatred for me and for Yao Jinyu, as we refuse to adhere to the plot and have escaped his control. This revelation did not come to light until I and Yao Jinyu moved into the same dormitory in college, at which point the author began whispering incessantly in Yan Xiaoxue's ear. Originally, it was Su Wan who should have lost both parents. She is the one who caused you to lose your father and mother, becoming an orphan at 12. The one who should have been adopted as a discarded child is Su Wan. Her constant alterations to her fate have forced you to bear all the ridicule and scorn. Do you think Su Wan is so kind to you? Being good friends with you is merely a pretense. She needs a substitute to shield her from calamity and to endure all the suffering that rightfully belongs to her. Yan Xiaoxue, you are indeed unfortunate to have encountered her. Resist, or you will forever live in Su Wan's shadow, enduring her tragic life and pain, becoming her scapegoat. Look at how pitiful you are. While she enjoys a happy family, you have lost everything. If you wish to escape this miserable fate and trample Su Wan beneath your feet, there is but one path to tread. Since she has made you her stand-in, you have wholly assumed her destiny. To be with the male lead and seize the life that belongs to the female lead. One day, she will regret it. She will weep and plead for you to return Lu Lingfeng and everything that should have been hers. Just think how satisfying that moment will be. It is unfathomable to realize that for over a year, Yan Xiaoxue has endured such brainwashing. When he asked for your name, it was the author who compelled me to reveal it, though I willingly did so. I know how terrified you are of becoming entangled with him. I understand that you have no desire for the fate of that female lead. At this moment, I found myself at a loss for words, repeatedly apologizing. "I am so sorry, Yan Xiaoxue, truly sorry." Yan Xiaoxue gazed at me, utterly bemused. "Have you lost your wits? Why are you apologizing?" "I have not been brainwashed by that voice. Do you genuinely believe his nonsense? Before the age of 12, we were strangers, our families separated by vast distances. How could my parents possibly have been harmed by you? Do I not lead a fulfilling life? I do not feel it is bad at all. My adoptive parents love me as much as any biological parents would. My future is bright, and my father and mother in the heavens must be proud. Am I to hate others simply because some voice tells me to wallow in misery? I do not require anyone's pity, especially when he claims to feel sorry for me and wishes me well, yet he has never truly understood me or cared about the life and future I desire. He is merely eager to deceive me into taking on the burden of the Lu Lingfeng you and Yao Jinyu have cast aside." "Huh? What does that mean?" "If I am not mistaken, Lu Lingfeng's urgent desire to marry the female lead stems from your and Yao Jinyu's resistance, which has altered the entire world's dynamics, affecting him the most. It is akin to a flashlight needing batteries to shine, now that you and Yao Jinyu refuse to be the batteries. He is on the verge of extinguishing, hence the author wishes to replace his batteries." Yan Xiaoxue's words struck me like a revelation. Everything in this world is governed by the law of conservation. When a fortunate soul discovers money, it invariably means a misfortunate soul has lost it. Lu Lingfeng's life, filled with ease and privilege, signifies that others must endure unimaginable hardships. Thus, I have perpetually suffered, resembling a calamity that curses all around me. Be they friends or foes alike, all facing dire misfortunes. The purpose is to siphon our luck to bolster Lu Lingfeng, the male protagonist. In the original plot, my parents sacrificed their lives, while my adoptive parents languished in prison for 2 decades. Even a stranger who assisted me for a few days and provided meals would face 10 years of misfortune. Meanwhile, the supporting character Yao Jinyu was sold to Myanmar, and her good friend Zhao Linger would likely meet a tragic end. However, none of this has transpired. The author failed to notice in time, and Lu Lingfeng has continued to follow his predetermined path for so many years, overextending his luck. Now, he is desperately compelled to marry the female lead and restore everything to normal. He is so enamored with his current life that he resists change. Coincidentally, Yan Xiaoxue, Yao Jinyu, Zhao Linger, and I are all quite content with our present lives. We have no intention of becoming his batteries. I called Lu Lingfeng and recorded the conversation. You were the one behind this, weren't you? Why did you harm my adoptive parents? Why must you force me to marry you? In response to my interrogation, Lu Lingfeng's tone remained cold and unperturbed. I have possessed the ability to perceive everyone's identities in this world since childhood. For instance, your foolish roommate Yao Jinyu bears the glaring title vicious supporting character above her head. As for you, you shine with the golden label female lead. Yan Xiaoxue, do not struggle. I am the male lead of this world, and we are destined to be together. The process is truly tedious. Wouldn't it be better to reach the conclusion directly? I suppressed my astonishment and endeavored to maintain my composure. It is not surprising that I, the female lead, can hear the hearts of others, just as the male lead can discern their identities. Have you resigned yourself to fate? Have you never contemplated rebellion? You do not love me. Is it merely the title female lead that compels you to marry me? How do you know that I have not resisted? For years ago, at the commendation ceremony for the city's top students, I saw you. At that moment, I too found everything absurd. Yet the reality is that I must be with you, or I will lose everything. For this reason, I even had to alter my life plans and return to the country 2 years early. Yan Xiaoxue. Do you not think this is profoundly unfair? 2 years early? Therefore, according to the original plot, I would not have encountered the male lead until after graduating from university. But now, everything is in disarray. Cease your struggles. I shall not permit anyone to disrupt my existence, even if you are the protagonist. Before me you appear as insignificant as an ant. Should you dare to engage in conflict with me, I assure you, the repercussions will be dire. Lu Lingfeng, have you ever considered that it is not others who have caused you to lose everything, but rather you, who from the very beginning, have parasitically drained the fortunes of others to bolster your own? Just like today, you orchestrated a near-fatal accident for my adoptive parents to coerce me into marrying you, fulfilling your selfish ambitions. This is criminal behavior. One day, all that does not rightfully belong to you shall slip away, and you will bear the full weight of your transgressions. How can this be? Once we are wed, the story reaches its conclusion, and at that point, I shall reign as the sovereign of this world, beyond the reach of judgment, even yours. Very well. Allow me to pose one final inquiry. Who is that girl who divulged my name to you that day? She is nothing but a mere speck of dust, inconsequential, merely present in this world for the sake of numbers. I replied coolly, thank you for your revelation. Yan Xiaoxue could hardly be considered a mere footnote. Perhaps she once was an unknown entity, but now the author has sought her out, granting her a script for a remarkable reversal, unbeknownst to Lu Lingfeng. Has he truly become blind to the identities of others? Yan Xiaoxue consented to marry Lu Lingfeng, yet she did not withdraw from her studies. As we had anticipated, Lu Lingfeng cared only for the fate of marrying the female lead. When Yan Xiaoxue proposed a weekend wedding and insisted on marrying first before obtaining a marriage certificate, he did not object. He sought merely to fulfill the formality, to execute the plot. As long as marriage was achieved, everything else was inconsequential. Lu Lingfeng displayed no interest in the ceremony, delegating all arrangements to his assistant. Thus, until the day of the wedding, he remained oblivious to the identity of his bride. During the ceremony, Yan Xiaoxue wore a somewhat heavy veil, rendering her face almost unrecognizable. Yao Jinyu and Zhao Linger served as Yan Xiaoxue's bridesmaids, yet it was I who approached the stage bearing the rings. As I drew near, Lu Lingfeng seized my wrist forcefully. What are you doing? I smiled at him, delivering the rings, as the officiant just announced the exchange. Lu Lingfeng yanked off Yan Xiaoxue's veil, furiously demanding, Who are you? Yan Xiaoxue tilted her head slightly. I am Yan Xiaoxue. You have gone to great lengths to marry me. How could you not recognize me? Lu Lingfeng glared at me through gritted teeth. Then what is your name? I am Su Wan. Though perhaps to you, I am better known as the protagonist. Can't you tell the difference? Are your eyes truly failing you? It seemed I had indeed hit the mark. For a fleeting moment, Lu Lingfeng's complexion paled, but it was only a brief lapse before he regained his composure. Grasping the ring, he forcefully held onto my hand. Since you are aware of everything, let us simplify matters. Let the ceremony proceed. I must point out, dear groom, the bride stands right before you. Is it truly appropriate for you to place the ring on me? The male lead still maintained a formidable presence. The wedding drew an array of esteemed guests and media reporters. This spectacle left attendees exchanging bewildered glances. Suddenly, Yan Xiaoxue burst into laughter. Ladies and gentlemen, behold the man who came to my school to orchestrate my withdrawal. disregarding both my family's wishes and my own desires, insisting on marrying me. To compel me into matrimony, he went so far as to hire someone to injure my parents. And now, even before the wedding concludes, he intends to swap brides. Lu Lingfeng, does your family habitually bully and oppress others at will? Lu Lingfeng tightened his grip on my wrist, applying such force it felt as though he might shatter it. Ignoring Yan Xiaoshua's accusations, he dragged me before her, boldly declaring to all present, "It is Yan Xiaoshua who deceived me. I do not know her, nor do I intend to marry her. The woman I have desired from the very beginning is Su Wan, the one whose hand I now hold. It was she who misled me into believing her name was Yan Xiaoshua, leading to this misunderstanding." With that, he turned to Yan Xiaoshua, "Security, remove this delusional woman from my sight." Truly, he exemplified the male lead, even in such a predicament, not forgetting to showcase his authoritative demeanor, ensuring that while he remained unembarrassed, others bore the brunt of the awkwardness. Among the crowd, an undercover officer stood up, handcuffs in hand, approaching the stage. "Mr. Liu, you are suspected of hiring a hitman. Please accompany us." Zhao Linger stood in stunned silence, while Yao Jinyu muttered incantations under her breath. "Jinyu, what are you reciting?" "Memorizing vocabulary. At a time like this, you still have the presence of mind to study? Which word are you on?" Yao Jinyu replied, "Abandon, abandon, abandon." Lu Lingfeng was led away by police amidst the flash of cameras from numerous media outlets. Such an event could never be concealed. The image of the Lu Corporation plummeted, stocks crashing. His father, chairman of the Lu Corporation, was so enraged he spat blood. During his hospitalization, an assistant who had been undercover for a decade wielded the evidence he had painstakingly gathered over the years to file a formal complaint against the Lu Corporation. Not only for tax evasion and unfair competition but also for collusion and bribery, the Lu family was implicated in several cases of missing persons and homicides. It was no wonder Lu Lingfeng executed his schemes with such finesse, daring to sell people into Myanmar. As the saying goes, an unprincipled upper beam leads to a crooked lower beam. Crime often runs in the family. His father, the previous reigning CEO, had left behind a legacy of corruption that Lu Lingfeng merely inherited. As for his mother, did he even have one? 9.5 out of 10 domineering CEOs lack a maternal figure. Upon hearing such absurdity again, a surge of strength coursed through me, and I forcefully pushed both of them back. "Your father was killed by a vengeful enemy." Her life was exchanged for Lu Lingfeng's father to enjoy a life of peace and prosperity. Ultimately, Lu Lingfeng's father was sentenced to death. With the illegal activities of the Lu family exposed, the entire Lu Corporation crumbled, devoured by competitors. To compensate the victims' families, the Lu family declared bankruptcy, and Lu Lingfeng found himself imprisoned for hiring a hitman and inciting crime. It was only at this moment that I learned of the male second who had never crossed my path before he reached adulthood. Lu Lingfeng had incited a gang to beat him to death. To preserve his status as the lead and the Lu family's fortune, he had committed countless heinous acts. Now, he finally faced the consequences of his past misdeeds. Perhaps he never imagined that those who would bring down the Lu family, leaving it in ruins, were the very dust he had once scorned, those insignificant beings. Even the assistant who had infiltrated for a decade was merely labeled cannon fodder, someone he had never deigned to regard. Little did he know that this cannon fodder would ultimately obliterate the Lu family. Yan Xiaoshua, burdened by her heavy wedding gown, gazed at Lu Lingfeng being taken away by the police and suddenly asked me, "Qianqian, why do you think fairy tales always conclude at the wedding of the prince and princess, abruptly ending there?" Perhaps it is because, before the marriage, the princess's life is filled with infinite possibilities, and in that vastness, she chooses the one true prince, forsaking all other beauties, rendering it profoundly romantic. Yet after the wedding, there is no longer a princess. Only a queen remains. The conclusion of the queen's tale was elucidated at the very beginning of the narrative, as exemplified by the prematurely departed mother of Snow White and the fleetingly existent mother of Cinderella. Thus concludes the text. Thank you for listening. Until we meet again in our next story.